Who was Saddam Hussein? A hero to some Arabs, but to others a brutal dictator with blood on his hands. Did he really have a Quran written with his own blood? How did he become one of Israel's most dangerous enemies? And what happened to the judge who sentenced him to death? We'll explore all of that today. You are about to watch a powerful video. Don't forget to subscribe. A woman named Subhatulfa was pregnant when tragedy struck. She lost her husband and one of her children. She was devastated, and the emotional pain led her to reject the baby she was carrying. But on April 28, 1937, that baby was born. She named him Saddam, which means the rejected one. Saddam Hussein was born into a life filled with sadness and stress. As a young boy, his mother sent him to live with his uncle in Tikrit, in Iraq. His uncle Khairullah was a strong Iraqi nationalist and a soldier. He would constantly talk to Saddam about Iraq, its great heroes, and its proud history, telling him, "One day you'll be like them, my nephew." But when his uncle was arrested for political reasons, Saddam had to return to his mother. By then, she had remarried, this time to her late husband's brother. Saddam's stepfather treated him with harshness and cruelty. That abuse had a deep effect on Saddam, both physically and emotionally. At the age of 19, Saddam's uncle wanted him to become a soldier. However, after failing the military entrance exams, he shifted his focus to politics. He dreamed of becoming a lawyer, so he applied twice to law school. But his mind was set on a revolution within the state, and this led him to drop out both times. At the age of 22, he and the political party he had joined attempted to assassinate Iraq's then leader, General Abdul Karim Qasem. The assassination attempt failed, and Saddam quickly became one of the most wanted figures in Iraq. As a member of revolutionary movements, in 1959 he was forced to flee to Syria, 500 kilometers away, while injured in the leg. On the way, he was shot again in the same leg. Life was shaping Saddam day by day through hardship. In 1963, he returned to Iraq and became a key member of the Ba'ath Party. But just 2 years later, he was imprisoned. In 1966, Saddam escaped from prison. Eventually, his party rose to power, and Iraq gradually fell into Saddam's hands. By 1979, he had become the full-fledged leader of the country. From that point on, Saddam began building a regime based on fear. Before Saddam, Iraq's GDP was only around $52.57 million. But according to World Bank reports, just 1 year into Saddam's rule, the GDP had jumped $2.9 billion. Prior to Saddam's rise, education and literacy were not a priority in Iraq. But under his leadership, those who refused to study were sentenced to 3 years in prison. His efforts to improve living standards and raise the quality of life in Iraq earned him recognition from UNESCO. In 1991, a new Iraqi flag featuring 3 stars was introduced. The phrase "Allahu Akbar," God is great, was written on it in Saddam Hussein's own handwriting. Saddam loved to read, especially philosophical books. He studied the works and lives of figures like Hitler and Stalin in great depth, particularly Hitler's Mein Kampf, which he had nearly memorized. He deeply studied the lives of historical philosophers, kings, and tried to draw lessons from them. He often encouraged others to read as well. Saddam also enjoyed fiction and even wrote 2 novels himself, both of which became bestsellers. He had a deep knowledge of Iraqi history and was particularly fascinated by King Nebuchadnezzar. He wanted to appear kind and generous in the eyes of the people. Sometimes he would have 200 to 300 sheep slaughtered and grand feasts prepared for the poor. Occasionally, he would walk among the people as they ate, and at other times, he would personally serve the food. He would ask about their conditions, and they would often respond, "We have no one but God and you." Saddam had a very refined and charismatic manner of speaking. If someone hadn't seen his darker side, they could easily grow fond of him. He firmly believed he was divinely chosen to save Iraq. After surviving several assassination attempts, this belief only grew stronger. In the year 2000, at the age 60, Saddam Hussein ordered the Quran to be written in his own blood. Some religious scholars across Arab countries declared this act to be disrespectful, but he paid no attention. The project took 2 years, and it was reported that 27 liters of his blood were used. Western researchers later investigated and claimed that Saddam could not have donated that much blood himself. Scientifically, a person can only donate around 4 liters per year. To reach 27 liters would have taken about 9 years. Some concluded that he either mixed it with chemicals or used blood from other people. In a letter published by the Iraqi state media in September 2000, Saddam explained his reason for commissioning the blood-written Quran. "My life has been filled with dangers that could have cost me a great deal of blood. But God protected me through it all. As a sign of gratitude, I had this Quran written with my blood." During his rule, beyond the sense of peace and security in the country, people began to take pride in being Iraqi. Under his leadership, the Iraqi military had risen to become the fourth most powerful army in the world. In Iraq, Saddam Hussein's portrait was displayed everywhere, in every building, business center, hotel, and even in small shops. Not to mention the statues, his image was truly omnipresent. His face could be seen on wristwatches, keychains, and even on the first page of school textbooks. Every Iraqi dinar note carried his image. Books and movies were produced to glorify him and inspire the people. On television, during prayer times, scenes would be shown of Saddam reading the Quran or raising his hands in prayer. Starting in 1998, every year on his birthday, a new mosque would be inaugurated in his honor. People would say, "We sacrifice our lives and blood for you. We dedicate it all to you." Saddam was known as the father of the nation. In an attempt to connect with ordinary citizens and hear their concerns, he even introduced a personal phone line so people could contact him directly. 1 year after coming to power, Saddam Hussein launched a war against Iran. Why did he attack Iran? Because Saddam feared what Iran had become. Around 60% of Iraq's population was Shia, and following the Islamic Revolution, Iran was now led by a Shia cleric, Ayatollah Khomeini, who had overthrown the monarchy and changed the system entirely. For Saddam, this wasn't just a political shift, it was a serious threat to both his rule and Iraq's future. He believed he had no other choice. For him, this was the perfect moment to act, and so he started the war. Saddam was considered a serious threat to Israel. Had he defeated Iran in that war, it would have created massive problems for Israel. That's why Israel supported Iran with everything it could. For Israel, the most important thing was to make sure Saddam and Iraq did not win. Reports say that nearly 80% of Iran's weapons and military supplies during the war came from Israel. Israel played a major role in ensuring Iraq would not be victorious. And in the end, it was the Muslim world that paid the heaviest price. The war lasted for 8 years. Nearly 1 million Muslims lost their lives. Some Iraqis began to express discontent with Saddam Hussein, blaming him for dragging the country into a war with Iran that severely damaged the economy and left Iraq with $80 billion in debt. But Saddam responded with these words: "It doesn't matter what people say about me now. What matters is what they will say 400 or 500 years after I'm gone. In 1979, Saddam purchased a nuclear reactor from France. Israel, however, saw this as a direct threat, believing Saddam was secretly trying to develop a nuclear bomb. In reality, the reactor had no connection to nuclear weapons. It was solely intended for electricity production. Still, Israel launched a preemptive strike. Their fighter jets destroyed the reactor, which had cost Iraq a massive investment. Saddam was furious. He publicly vowed to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. Some reports even claimed that Saddam had negotiated with Palestinian militant groups to kidnap the Israeli president. In 1990, Saddam turned Iraq's forces toward Kuwait and successfully invaded the country. Around the same time, he launched 42 Scud missiles at Israel. Also, the missiles weren't equipped with chemical warheads and failed to strike precise targets. They served as a strong warning. 3 people died in the attack. Nonetheless, this move portrayed Israel as vulnerable in the eyes of the world. In the Arab world, Saddam was hailed as a hero, especially among Palestinians. In 2000, after 66 Muslims were killed in Jerusalem during a violent incident, Saddam said, "If Iraq shared a border with Israel, we would have already marched into it." Israel remained on edge, constantly fearing a potential attack from Saddam. That fear never went away. Saddam called on Arab nations with a fiery message. The Arab world must sharpen its swords. After the September 11, 2001 terrorist attack on the World Trade Center, something strange and unexpected happened. Saddam Hussein was suddenly pointed to as a target. There was no real evidence linking him to the attacks. Blaming Saddam was purely political, a baseless move. Still, the world feared his powerful 1 million strong army. Beyond that, long-standing tensions between Saddam and the United States only fueled the fire. Eventually, USA President George Bush, under the pretext of finding weapons of mass destruction, gained approval from the United Nations to invade Iraq. But those weapons were never found. In 2003, under the leadership of the USA and the UK coalition forces entered Iraq. In just 26 days, Saddam Hussein was overthrown and Baghdad fell. Many had hoped that Saddam's fall would bring peace and stability to Iraq, but that peace never came. Instead, the war claimed the lives of nearly 1 million Iraqis. Around 5 million people fled the country, with 2 million becoming refugees in other nations. The USA left Iraq in ruins. Later, under international pressure, it pledged $50 billion in aid as a form of reparation for the destruction. But in the end, only $5 billion was actually delivered. On June 30, 2003, Saddam Hussein stood before a judge. He was charged with multiple crimes and underwent a trial that lasted nearly 2 years. In 2006, on the morning of Eid al-Adha at 6 a.m., Saddam was executed by hanging. It's said that just before his death, he uttered the words, "Long live the homeland," followed by the takbir, Allahu Akbar. After Saddam's death, the United States took control of Iraq's oil resources. Even to this day, Iraq has struggled to fully recover. During the trial, Saddam harshly criticized the judge. The very judge who sentenced him to death, Rauf Abdul Rahman, was reportedly kidnapped and killed by militants sometime later. Jordanian MP Khalil Atih confirmed this in Facebook conversations. Conclusion: Saddam Hussein rose to power during an extremely turbulent time in an unstable region. Circumstances and pressures shaped him into a leader he may never have intended to become. Politics often forces people to make choices they never wanted to make. Still, some of Saddam's actions can never be justified, as seen from everything mentioned above. Saddam cannot be portrayed as a role model or a moral example. Yet for many Iraqis, Saddam remains a hero because whether the world accepts it or not, the era of his rule was one of the few times in modern history when Iraq stood strong, a time rarely witnessed again in the country's history. Subscribe for more content like this.